So Rabbi Lezer Hakfar Omer Hakapar, it says here, the more precise, Mishnah 21 Chafal. In different versions of Mishnah, it appears as a different Mishnah, but here it's Chafal. Kinah hataiva v'kavod motzin es adam min ha'olam. Kinah, which is jealousy, taiva, which is desire, and kavod, which is the pursuit of honor, take a person out of this world. So, what are these three midos, and what are the positive side of these three midos? Why does it say motzin es adam min ha'olam? Okay, so kinah is jealousy, which means that I am upset that you have something and I don't have it. Taiva is desire. I'm not necessarily upset that you don't have something, but I want it. And Kavod is, but I feel that I should receive more honor in this world than I'm actually receiving, and I want to get more and more honor. So in order to explain this in greater detail, we have to talk about the emotions which underlie these emotions. And that is, the entire world, the way HaKadosh Baruch Hu created, works in binary code. Just like a computer works in binary code, in zeros and ones, so too a human being and the rest of the Bria works in binary code of 0 and 1, but specifically the neshama, as we're speaking about it right now. How does neshama work in binary code? There are two movements which the neshama has. The neshama has a movement of expanding, going towards, and the neshama has a movement of contracting, pulling away. Everything in the world, every midah, is made up of some combination of giving and receiving. Giving, expanding, receiving, coming towards myself. And there is no such thing as a midah which has any other aspect. It's just like just like you use zeros and ones in computer programming to program extraordinarily complex programs, and boils down to zeros and ones. The same thing, all the other emotions are very complex, that they're all based underneath on zeros and ones. So the zeros and ones are kinah and taiva. Kinah is a midah which draws away from other people. Taiva is a movement which moves towards other people. Sometimes it's not people, sometimes it's objects or things, but it's the same idea. What is kinah? Kinah is when I find somebody else, his possession or his self or anything that he owns, distasteful. Taiva is when I find something which is a person or an item which I want to possess, I want to take over. In kinah, I push away. In taiva, I pull towards. Okay, the root of both kinah and taiva, and the end result of kinah and taiva is kavod, a person's pursuit of their own honor and glory. In other words, there is something which we say is a good thing in this world, which is self-esteem. It's always good for a person to feel that they have unique qualities, special qualities, they have unique accomplishments, special accomplishments, and that they are people who are worthwhile, significant, and accomplishing in this world. But that is internal. Self-esteem is how you feel about yourself. Kavod is what you're seeking from other people. You want other people to honor you, to give you glory, to see how great you are. It's not good enough that you have your own self-esteem. You want people to admire and to respect you from the outside. So, kavod in essence is the source of kinah and taiva. Why? Because if a person didn't have an exaggerated sense of self, then they would realize whatever they get in this world is what Hashem gives them, and that would not have jealous of other people, and not have taiva, not be desirous of things that are beyond them and not appropriate for them. So these are motzinas adam min olam. They take a person out of the world. And Chazal say every person is like an olam katan. Every person is like a small world unto him or herself. And you have your world, which you make in your lifetime. That's why when a person passes away, one of the terms which is used for that is Holech Adam el Beis Olamo. A person goes to his world. Why his world? Because during your lifetime you create your world. The world which is your list of accomplishments in this world, and then you go to enjoy that world when you leave this world to the extent that you merit to enjoy it. So Kinah, Taiva, and Kavod. Kinah is jealousy. Taiva pulling away. Taiva is going towards something inappropriately, and Kavod is somebody who is Kinah and Taiva. It comes from Kavod, from a sense of self which is inappropriate, and it is a drive for Kavod. Because I find myself to be so important, I think that I can override legitimate limits, be jealous, or be desiring. Now, these three midos, Kinah, Taiva, and Kavod, have positive correlations as well. And those positive correlations are Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferes. Chesed, Gevura, Tiferes. Now, what does Chesed, Gevura, and Tiferes mean? Chesed is going towards. Gevura is pulling back. And Tiferes is harmony when the two are in proper proportion. And we'll explain. Chesed is giving, unrestrained giving. In other words, you give no matter to whom you're giving. A person is a true Baal Chesed doesn't take into account whether the person they're giving to is worthy or not. They're givers. They give. They expand out by in and of themselves. Gevura, restraint, means to step back. And again, it doesn't mean to step back necessarily only when it's appropriate. You're kind of like an introverted person. Somebody who's not involved with other people, not necessarily for bad reasons, but that's the way they are. That's their personality. And Tiferes is harmony, not too much, not too little of each midah. Each of these midos is associated with one of the avos. Avraham Avinu is associated with Chesed, because that was his thing, to go out and spread the word about HaKadosh Baruch Hu, get people to learn about Hashem, do gemilus chasadim, like we see with the malachim. That was the midah of Avraham Avinu. Chesed, constant expansiveness, going towards other people. Yitzchak Avinu's midah is seen to be restraint, gevura. We know Ezu, Gibor, HaKovesh, is Yitzro. Gevura is a very good thing in the right place, because a person who has gevura, who has strength and inner strength, is able to overcome and restrain themselves from going after the Yetzer Hara. But also means like Yitzchak Avinu for much of his life was blind and shut off from people. It's a person whose avoda, whose sense of relationship with the rest of the world is one of disassociation. Well, in this case, Yitzchak l'shem shamayim, he was focused on other things, not on influencing other people. The Yaakov Avinu's midah is supposed to be both of them mixed together, a harmonious mix, a proper application of chesed and proper application of gvura. And that is Tiferes. Interesting, Kavod is when you want honor from people. Tiferes is when you display something special, something which is glorious. Literally, Tiferes means something which is glorious. It's not because you're pursuing Kavod, but that's who you are. That's how you become. So there are three positive traits: Chesed, Gvura, and Tiferes. But what happens if they go to negative? The Kinah, Taiva, and Kavod. So Avraham Avinu is Chesed. From he had a son Yishmael. Yitzchak Avinu is Gvura. He had a son Esav. Yaakov Avinu Chazal say mitaso shlema. He had no children who went off the derech. He was very concerned about that his entire life, but he ultimately all of his children were proper, good, and obviously holy people. So why does Avraham Avinu have a son who's Yishmael? Because if you have that midah of Chesed taken too far and not restrained, and going over into the negative, it becomes Yishmael, who's called a Baal Taiva. It's called a person of great desire. The Arabs, at least before Muhammad came along, and maybe even afterwards, it says Chazal say that 10 kavin of znus, 10 kavin of inappropriate behavior, 10 measures appropriate behavior came down to the world. 9 went to the Arabs and 1 to the rest of the world. So Avraham Avinu's midah of chesed, taken without moderation and without proper intent, can lead somebody to the midah of taiva. Yitzchak had a son, Esav. Esav was the ultimate sign of Kinah, symbol of Kinah. And how was the ultimate symbol of Kinah? Because he was a murderer. A person who murders is the ultimate form of jealousy, the jealousy of not allowing anybody else to be in this world. You can't stand the person so much, he bothers you so much, you got to kill him. Right? So that is the ultimate form of jealousy. So that is Esav. So taking Gevura too far leads to Kinah, leads to jealousy, and leads to that kind of behavior which was displayed by Esav. Yaakov Avinu, his whole life he was concerned that he should have he should have all good children. And why was it such a matter of concern for him? Because he had a Masorah that if he had all good children, that would be a sign of success. That means that he accomplished what he's supposed to accomplish in this world. And if he did not have all good children, or even if they didn't all survive, it would be a sign that he failed in what he was supposed to do in this world. Why? Because Yaakov Avinu was supposed to take both those midos, both those traits together, and combine them and make them into a harmony. And the ideal parent or teacher or any type of figure who is in a position of authority or position of responsibility, ideally speaking, and most of us fail, at least at certain times, in certain places, ideally has the harmony of knowing when to use a chesed and when to use gvura, when to draw towards and when to draw back. Obviously, there are cases when a teacher, let's say, should give, which is most of the time, right? But if a person is misbehaving, a person doesn't understand something, a person has to teach us to draw back. He has to either draw back because the person is misbehaving or because he can't give over knowledge which people are not going to understand anyway. It's counterproductive. So a person has to be, in order to be a good teacher or parent, has to be a mixture of chesed and gvura. It's very, very hard. And most of us fail at least part of the time. Some of us fail most of the time. But the idea is to try and find the harmony. And that type of teacher or parent is a tiferes. Chazal say, I think it's actually a pasuk in Mishnah. Tiferes banim avosam. The glory of children is their parents. Why? Because the parents if the parents are ideal people, so to speak, in parenting, then they are tiferes. They are a harmony of relationship, and therefore they are something which is obviously a glory for the kids. Now we have a similar pattern with how you become wise in this world. And for that, we have a set of another triad, so to speak. This is perhaps the most famous one. Chachma, Bina, Das. Chabad. Chachma, Bina, Das. Okay? Chachma is knowledge, Bina understanding, Das is wisdom. But by the way, those are in Ashkenaz. We have in Tochonen, we have Dea, Bina, Vehaskel. Second. Dea, Bina, Vehaskel. What does Dea, Bina, Vehaskel mean? So it means that same idea. Dea in that respect means Chachma, not Das, wisdom. Dea is a different word. Bina is the same word. Bina is understanding. Haskel is wisdom. The Seichel tov v'chol oseyem. So Haskel is wisdom. So it's the same concepts, just using different words. So Chachma is an expansive thing. We expand out and try and get more and more knowledge, more data, more stuff to put into our minds. Bina is understanding. That is not something which is going out, but rather using taking what I have, the data I have, and trying to understand it, which means trying to categorize it, put it in different cubby holes, which tells me what it represents and how I can use it. So that is actually like Gvura in the sense that it is restraining and putting things into different compartments in my mind in order to understand better. Das is the combination of the two. A person can only be wise if they have both Chokhmah, knowledge, and Bina, understanding. If a person has a lot of knowledge but not understanding, they're not wise. They just know a lot of facts. They're like a computer hard drive. They remember stuff, but that's it. A person is understanding without Chokhmah, so then that person can be a wonderful person. And they can understand other people very well, or understand things very well, but you can't have wisdom unless you have knowledge which you can use with your Bina in order to actually become a wise person. So it says, Chazal say, Bina Yisera Nitno Lenoshim, right? Greater Bina was given to women, right? Why does it mean Bina Yisera Nitno Lenoshim? It means that understanding requires more emotion. I have to have a sense of what this piece of knowledge represents. An intuition, we would say. So that intuition is more present in women than it is in men. Of course, it's not a general rule, but generally speaking, it's not a complete rule, not always the case. But generally speaking, women have Bina Yisera, they understand things better than men because they have greater emotion, and emotion gives them a sense of understanding more than men have. Chazal used to say that Noshim Daiton Kalos. Women, their das is light, right? Meaning they lack wisdom. What does that mean, according to our interpretation today? It means in the old days, women were not given the chokhmah. Women did not go to school. Women did not have an education. Women didn't know stuff. So since they didn't know stuff, they had bina, but not so much chokhmah. So their das was kal. It was light. It wasn't so strong and effective. Today, that women do get chokhmah, so then we expect women to also possess a strong das because they have the chokhmah and the bina with which to work. Now, it's interesting that this is true about every subject. In any subject, let's say you're studying math. First, you have to get the information. Then you understand it. And then you have das, which means that you've become wise in this aspect of math. And now you have it, you can use it, and you can, and it's part and parcel of your store of wisdom. That is true about history. It's true about language. It's true about anything you study. There's a chokhmah bina das process. In Torah, there's an additional aspect, which is when the Torah talks about B'tzalel, Torah says that Hashem filled B'tzalel with chokhmah, b'tzvuna, uvedas. B'tzalel needed chokhmah bina das in order to work on the Mishkan. But Rashi says, I think it's the Parshas of Vayakal. Rashi might be Kisisa. Rashi says that das there means Ruach HaKodesh. Why does it mean Ruach HaKodesh? Why Ruach HaKodesh? Because if a person has Chachma Bina Das in Torah, in their knowledge of Torah and Avodas Halacha, Avodas Hashem, Hashkafa, all those areas, because Torah knowledge is not just Torah knowledge, but and because Torah understanding is not just Torah understanding, this is knowing something holy, understanding something holy. So then that wisdom is a higher level wisdom. It's not just mathematical wisdom, it's the wisdom of Ruach HaKodesh. Ruach HaKodesh means not that you're aware, not that you're a Navi or a Neviah. It means that you have a higher inspiration and even a connection with Hashem, which you might not even feel yourself. Sometimes you might feel, sometimes not, which comes from the Chabad having taken place in Torah. Okay? So again, Chachma is like Chesed and like Taiva. It says it's expanding towards that, right? And a person, as we say in the Birkas Torah, V'harev nos divrei soroscha befinu. We want Torah to be sweet. Why does Torah need to be sweet? Because only if Torah is sweet do we enjoy it, do we have a desire for it. What they call in Yiddish a geschmack. So that's then what you want. So Torah has to be sweet. Then I want to go out and get more and more knowledge of Torah. If you have Bina is restraining and putting things into their proper pigeonholes where they're supposed to belong in order in my mind to understand them, right? So that corresponds to Kinah, because Kinah also narrows the boundaries. Sometimes it's by making things, in the case of Kinah, by eliminating things, but not expanding towards others, but contracting away from others, being jealous of others. And Kavod, Das, corresponds to Tiferes, and we know the ultimate Tiferes that a person has is to be a wise person. That's the great glory of a person, and it's all should be internal. You know, I think I've told you many times that if a person receives their sense of self-importance and dignity from outside of themselves. For example, if I came into the classroom and I only felt a sense of dignity, meaning, and value if I was my teaching went in a fantastic, amazing way, and nobody disturbed me and acted out, that would not be self-esteem. That's not inner esteem. Anything it means I have a lack of self-confidence, and I need to have validation. Somebody has to show me that I'm valid from outside myself. That is pursuing Kavod. And on the contrary, Tiferes is when I try to be a wise person, which is what ideally a teacher or a parent should be, if at all possible, and I try and act accordingly, and that is the Tiferes, and the opposite of, or not the antithesis of Kavod. Now, when Adam and Chava sinned, they committed Kinah and Taiva. Chana's sin was the sin of Taiva. She desired the apple. First time the word Taiva appears in Tanakh, it says in Torah, Chava saw, Tavohi le'inayin. The fruit was something to desire in the eyes, right? Then the Nachash was jealous of Adam and Chava, but Chava also was jealous of Adam. And therefore she said, I better make him eat the apple, because otherwise I'm going to die, and he's going to marry somebody else. So there was a Kinah and Taiva involved there. And Kavod is what the Nachash said, V'yisem ke'elokim. The Nachash said, eat from this tree, and you'll be like God. Now, the truth is, that is where we're supposed to be. V'yisem ke'elokim. We're supposed to try and be like God. But we're not supposed to be try and be like God through shortcuts. We're given a tzelem Elokim. Our neshamas resemble HaKadosh Baruch Hu, so to speak, in order that we should be like Elokim, should be godly. But it comes through work, through toil. There are no shortcuts. You can't just go. Kavod is something which you want to achieve usually with shortcuts, without any true work, because it's not something which is achieved through work. It's achieved by getting other people to be impressed with you. So the Yisem Kelokim was the pursuit of Kavod. So Kinah, Taiva, and Kavod, there's a different pshat in the Mishnah. Motziim es Adam Yom. They took Adam himself, Adam Rishon, out of the world. How to take him out of the world? Because Adam Rishon there was decreed upon him death. Till then he was not supposed to die. But then it was decreed upon him death because he succumbed, he gave in to Kinah, Taiva, and Kavod. So to go back over our idea for today, things in Judaism usually come in threes. I didn't get into all the possible threes, obviously. There are many possible threes. Certainly in Kabbalah, there are all sorts of systems of threes, like we said. But we just got into three of the threes. Kinah, Taiva, Kavod, Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, and Chochmah, Bina, Das. There are other ways of arranging all of these things. By that I mean other ways of configuring threes. For example, in the Spheros, which are the Kabbalistic attributes which a person is supposed to try and acquire in this world. So there's Chesed, Gvur, Tiferes, Netzach Hod Yisod. That is the triad below Chesed Gvur Tiferes, and not for now to explain how Netzach Hod Yisod differ from Chesed Gvur Tiferes. By the way, it's important to understand. Chachma Bina Das is an intellectual. Kinah, Taiva, Kavod, and Chesed Gvur Tiferes are emotional. A person is supposed to have the emotional triad govern their and contribute to their, did I say emotional? The intellectual triad govern and contribute to their emotional triad. The lave, the heart, which is the metaphorical seat of the emotions, is supposed to be governed by the mind, which is the seat of intellect. It doesn't always happen that way, and sometimes emotion is very important. But generally speaking, a person is supposed to be governed by Chachma Bina Das in using their Chesed Gvura Tiferes, that it shouldn't become Kinah, Taiva, Kavod. It's interesting, one other thing, which is that Kinah, Taiva, Kavod are reversed, because it's like Kinah corresponds to Gvura, Taiva corresponds to Chesed, Kavod corresponds to Tiferes. But why they're reversed, right? Kinah comes first in the order, even though it corresponds to Gvura, which is second in the order. See, the order is reversed. So a person doesn't sin unless a person doesn't sin unless, of course, they have nichlas b'hem ruach shtus. They're a little bit crazy. Wasn't a little bit crazy. Of course, they're responsible for their actions, right? But something threw them off base. Something put them in a position where they're not thinking straight. There's another version of that, which is Ein Adam Chayte Elam B'Tol Chesed Chadas. A person only sins when they get distracted. Chesed Chadas, they're not focused, they're not concentrating. Because the person always is supposed to have the chachma of Shibisi Hashem Lenegdi Tamid. I have Hashem always opposite me. I'm thinking about Hashem, what Hashem wants from me. I try to acquire knowledge of that, understanding that, wisdom about that. And then a person doesn't sin. But a person doesn't always have that. A person gets distracted. A person, on a different version, gets a little bit crazy. They don't remember Shibisi Hashem Lenegdi Tamid. Right? So, that usually comes, the kernel of that is Kinah, but not Kinah of another person. It's like it was the Adam Rechava, Kinah of a Kodesh Baruch Hu. In other words, there's a concept of a Baal Gaiva, a person who's a haughty, arrogant person. And Chazal say that Hashem says, I can't live in the same world. You leave the world, somebody's got to go, of a Baal Gaiva. A Baal Gaiva is somebody who's full of hot air, full of sense of self-importance. He's an amazing fellow. Because Kavod, you need somebody else to give you Kavod. Right? But Gaiva can be internal. I have an overblown sense of self. I think that I am more worthy and more distinguished and more important than everybody else in the world, or at least anybody I can think of. That's Gaiva. And that is to uplift oneself with haughtiness. And that usually comes because I'm jealous of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Hashem is the real, Hashem Geus Malach Geus Lavesh, we say in davening. Hashem is, so to speak, the only one worthy of Gaiva because he is everything. I'm subservient to HaKadosh Baruch Hu. Should not have Gaiva. But I should be modest, humble, devote myself to what Hashem wants me to devote myself. Somebody who doesn't do that is a Baal Gaiva, and that comes initially from that Kinah, from that jealousy, not of another person. Eventually becomes jealousy of other people as well. But the first jealousy is the jealousy of HaKadosh Baruch Hu. V'yisem ke'elokim, like Adam was told, like the Nachash told Adam Arishon, right? You deserve this because you are like gods and should be like gods even more so by knowing Tov Ra. So I think that's because the Kinah is of Gaiva, right? The Kinah of HaKadosh Baruch Hu, a person who's jealous of Hashem, wants to be like God himself. That is the initial basis for all sin. From that comes the Taiva, which is blurring Kinah is blurring boundaries, and Taiva is blurring boundaries which are appropriate, and of course the pursuit of Kavod as well. One last thing is that there's a mishnah which says, Kol harodef min hakavod, hakavod rodef achrav. Also in Pirkei Avos. Anybody who runs away from Kavod, Kavod runs after him. So the question is that, so a guy once came to his Rebbe and said, Rebbe, my entire life I'm running away from Kavod. Why isn't the Kavod running after me? So the Rebbe said to him, no, you misunderstand. If you are always looking over your shoulder to see if the Kavod is running after you, you're constantly running away from the Kavod, looking over your shoulder because you're running away in order to make sure that the Kavod pursues you. That's not how it works. You have to roll away from your Kavod and not look back and anticipate that the Kavod is coming. I think the deeper meaning of that is that Kavod in of itself is not what you should be seeking. You should be seeking Tiferes, and Chazal say that Tiferes is Tiferes mean a person should seek to do things in life which are Tiferes lo mina Adam and Tiferes for him for Hashem. Something which is glorious, something which is harmonious, something which is the right way of conducting oneself in the world. With that, you can have inner honor, inner respect, not the kavod which comes from outside. And that's something which a person has to constantly remind themselves in this world. You're working not for kavod, which comes from other people. You're working for the sense of accomplishment, which comes from inside yourself. And that is something which is we very often forget. Simple example, which is that very often, and I see, this is a good time to talk about it because particularly the students who are here from the 8th grade, they are put in work to the, the ones who are here specifically, put in work into the classes which we have now, above and beyond. Well above would be necessary to, or satisfactory at any time. Because, but the problem is that most of the time we're working in school for an A, for 100. And there you stop sometimes when you can get to the 100 because you want to get the grade. And that's really looking for the cover. A person should be doing the pursuing knowledge and understanding in order to become a wise person, independent of the grade. It's very hard to do sometimes because we stress that, but the grade, but that is not why a person should ever be a massing chachma, bina and das. It's in order to become a better person and in order to become a more knowledgeable and wise person. Kodesh Baruch Hu should give us the schus of developing our wisdom, our chachma, bina and das, chesed gvur tiferes, and avoiding kinah, taiva, v'kavod, and you should all have a good Shabbos. You're welcome. Welcome. Have a good Shabbos. Shabbos. You're welcome.